How can someone remain calm when everything around them is on fire and still find the courage to save a life? He could have been just another victim, but a warm nose refused to give up. What you're about to see isn't just another story about a fire. It's a tale of loyalty, instinct, and a love that knows no bounds. In the next few minutes, you'll see how courage, loyalty, and an instinctive act saved a life. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover may surprise you and perhaps change the way you view life-saving dogs. Imagine 3 seconds that change everything. Thick, suffocating smoke seeping through the crack in the window. Paws pounding the floorboards in haste. A small hand trembling in the dark as the heat advances. Cut to the dog's gaze, eyes fixed, breathing heavily, every muscle ready for the mission. This image, so simple yet so powerful, sums up the essence of what it means to be a hero dog in a critical moment. Have you ever been there? If not, get ready. This story will stir emotions and teach lessons that are valuable to any family with a pet. At first, it seemed impossible. Locked doors, smoke-filled hallways, neighbors scrambling for space amid the panic. But there was something different there, a behavior that goes beyond training, closer to the deep instinct many dogs possess. In telling this story, we want to show not only the rescue itself, but the human-animal bond that makes such an extraordinary act possible. We'll understand step by step how a dog found a lost child in the middle of the fire, how he acted, and why these cases are so moving to those who witness them. Throughout this introduction, I'll tease out the most moving details. The dog's immediate reaction. The smell of smoke that confused even the most experienced. The sound of sirens in the distance, and the silence that precedes rescue. I'll also offer reflections on canine behavior and small tips that can make a difference in emergencies. After all, moving stories about hero dogs always carry a practical aspect that we need to know. But I won't give everything away now. I'll just spark your curiosity so you can stay glued to the screen. There are times when words aren't enough, and that's when images speak louder. The moment the dog, ignoring its own fear, approaches the child, covers him with its body, and persists until someone comes to help. Simple testimonies from a mother, a neighbor, or a firefighter lend credibility and warm the heart. And if you think this kind of action is rare, wait until you hear the surprising detail that made the rescue almost legendary in the local community. How did a dog manage to locate a child in the middle of the fire? This is the question that guides our narrative. This introduction is an invitation. Come and understand the sequence that led to the rescue, feel the tension of the climax, and learn about the consequences that forever changed the lives of that family and their dog. I promised to bring emotion, facts about animal behavior, and a respectful look at what it means to be saved by a four-legged friend. Now, let's go back to the beginning and understand exactly what happened. The day, the place, the small signs. No one noticed until it was too late, and follow scene by scene how an unlikely hero did the impossible. As we follow scene by scene, I want to ask you something quick and very sincere. If this story touches your heart the way it touched mine when I heard the stories, leave a comment below with what moved you most, or if you've experienced something similar. Sharing your experience isn't just about exchanging words, it's about strengthening a community that recognizes and values these four-legged heroes. When you comment, others will find this video and perhaps receive comfort, hope, or important information to protect their loved ones. And if you're enjoying this kind of content, click the like button. It's a simple gesture that shows that real stories like this deserve to be shared, seen by more families, and even help those who need to learn about prevention and care for pets in risky situations. Also, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next installments. Here we share stories that move, teach, and honor dogs who saved lives, and your participation is what makes this work grow and reach even more people. Stay with me. Let's go back to the beginning, reconstruct every detail of the day everything changed, and understand how instinct transformed despair into salvation. That morning began like any other. A gentle routine, low voices in the kitchen, the usual ritual that gives meaning to home. But within minutes, normality was shattered by a sound no one expected, a dry crack, then another, and the smell of something burning that rose swiftly, almost imperceptible at first. I introduce the protagonists here, with all due respect for their privacy. A small boy playing in the corner of the living room, a family living on small habits, and a dog whose routine was to run between feet and wait for petting at the window. I won't use names because the hidden truth we're about to explore is bigger than people. It's about bonds, instincts, and decisions that transform destinies. It was early, faint light filtering through the curtains. The fire originated from a short circuit in an outlet behind the sofa, one of the technical details many consider behind the scenes until a serious emergency arises. The flames began low and discreet, and soon smoke filled the corners of the house. Doors that, in the sudden panic, had proved routinely locked, a difficult lock, a jammed window, became obstacles that seemed to shorten the distance between tragedy and loss. In the hallway, the heat was rising rapidly. In the kitchen, neighbors heard the alarm and the irregular cadence of footsteps. These micro-hookups, the cracking cup, the clock ticking, the neighbor opening the hallway door, are the details that make up a scene so real it hurts. Visually, imagine a cut, B-roll with thick smoke, light filtering through suspended particles, hands searching for something in the dark, panting breaths captured up close. Sound is essential here. The rising crackling, the dog's intermittent barking that repeats like a beat in the narrative's chest, and in the background, the distant wail of sirens heightening the tension. In terms of mentality, the decisions made. In the first few seconds, running for keys, trying to open a window, screaming for help, have a huge impact on the sequence of events. And it is in this interweaving of actions and reactions that the canine hero's journey begins. The dog, which until then seemed like just another part of the routine, displays behaviors that many would classify as unnatural. He stops, sniffs, intensely runs back to the room, scratches at the door, and howls insistently. For those who live with animals, these signs aren't always new. But when smoke blankets everything and panic sets in, this instinct takes center stage. There's a noticeable transformation in the animal's demeanor, from playfulness to absolute focus, and this shift is the first major clue that something bigger is happening. It's not just courage. It's a combination of bonding, heightened sensory perception, and an immediate decision that prioritizes the other over one's own comfort. Neighbors say there was chaos at the time, doors being broken down, an adult trying to move furniture to create a passage, a child unresponsive to calls. And then came the sound no one expected, the barking of a guide dog, a sound that seemed to point toward a specific point. Brief testimonies, later confirmed by firefighters, describe the animal entering where the smoke was thickest, sniffing and using its body to shield itself. The image of the dog covering the boy with its own body, minimizing inhalation, is a gesture that resonates deeply because it speaks of surrender, a surrender that changes the destiny of a family and leaves seeds of transformation in the entire community. Reconstructing the scene reveals revelations that defy immediate logic. Why did the dog act this way? Some canine behavior experts believe that many animals have a sensitivity to chemical changes in the air, human behavior, and stress patterns that go unnoticed by us. Other explanations touch on the emotional journey, a bond formed by daily care, by constant presence, that creates a kind of automatic decision to save. These are hypotheses that deserve to be investigated behind the scenes, because understanding the why broadens our understanding of responsibility and prevention. And little by little, we realize that the dog's act is also a leaf in a larger book about mentality and decision-making in extreme situations. There are also, of course, practical aspects that we cannot ignore. The house had limited exit routes. The outlet where the fire started was behind the sofa, and the boy, at the time, was in the most vulnerable position, asleep or disoriented by the smoke. These technical elements change the logic of intervention. When the dog approaches, he's not just guiding by silent instinct. He makes quick decisions: when to jump, when to scratch, where to position his body to reduce immediate risk. Every movement has a direct impact on survival, and this raises important questions that go beyond the emotional: household planning, pet identification, basic training, and how a transformation in the way we approach safety can save lives. As we reconstruct each scene, we also realize the collective impact of the event, the neighborhood that mobilizes, local social networks that spread the news, the community that unites to support the recovery. The impact goes beyond the family. It's a shock that alters perceptions about what it means to have a pet at home, and how our everyday decisions can become acts of life or death. And this is one of the most powerful truths that emerge, that stories like this aren't just stories to move. They are practical lessons, invitations to rethink routines and choices. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, and in doing so we'll unravel the decisive moments that transformed what seemed like a tragic outcome into the beginning of recovery. We'll look at the small actions, the nearly invisible signs that preceded the rescue, and the choices the family made in mere seconds under pressure. We'll analyze how mindsets in the face of danger shape actions, how the hidden truth of a well-kept bond can reveal itself in the most critical moment, and how every decision, no matter how small, changes the course of a life. Comment: this makes sense to me. The alarm sounded distant, as if coming from another world, and yet that insistent bark cut through the fog of panic like a direct line to hope. First came the signal: scratches on the bedroom door, a brushing of paws that sounded different from usual, more urgent, more precise. The dog returned and went into the hallway, sniffed hurriedly, looked at the family as if begging for attention, and then pointed with his whole body to where the smoke was thickest. It was there, at that exact spot, that the search began. Short, loud, determined. The alert wasn't a simple bark, it was a sequence of natural commands that only those who live with animals recognize. A fixed gaze, a stiffened body, quick steps between the furniture. The camera, if it were close, would record everything in quick cuts until, at the moment of the encounter, we fall into slow motion to feel the weight of what was about to happen. Particles of dust in the air, the child's eyes half closed, the dog's muzzle illuminated by an orange glow that moved day and night across the face of those watching. The dog entered where the smoke was nearly impenetrable. He advanced, retreated, sniffed the dense air, and with a gesture that blended patience and haste, pushed open the loose door until he found the child. He found her lying down, as if her small body had given in to suffocation, and then did something that many describe in simple words, but which in the scene takes on the contours of heroism. The dog lay down, covering the boy, placing himself as a shield between the child and the heat. No one ordered it. No one trained him for this specific moment. It was a pure decision, made in fractions of a second. The sound of her eyes closing for a moment, the touch of her fur on the child's face, the gentle nudge with her nose to test for a reaction. Small acts that, combined, changed the trajectory of that life. In some cuts, the slow-motion footage shows the dog trying to drag the child. He grabbed the hem of the pajamas with his teeth, pulled, tried, failed, and tried again. A neighbor who had already provided assistance described he wouldn't give up. Even when the heat rose and you could see his singed fur, the dog came back. He always came back. The mother, sobbing, recounts in a short clip, "I only saw a snout. Then when the smoke cleared, I found both of them. He wouldn't let go of my son for anything." A firefighter, breathing between interventions, summarized in a grave voice, "Scenes like this we rarely see." The animal's behavior directly contributed to the time it took to get the victim out. These short and direct testimonies bring authenticity and human warmth to the narrative. They show that it wasn't just luck. There was a series of decisions, reactions, and a bond that materialized at the right moment. Canine behavior experts explain that, in critical situations, many dogs activate a protective repertoire that combines olfactory sensitivity, perception of human respiratory rhythm, and reading microgestures. A trainer consulted for the report explained in a nutshell, and with authority, that the bond formed through daily coexistence creates automatic responses. The dog recognizes minimal signs of danger in the owner or in the home and acts to reduce the threat. A veterinarian added that olfactory ability allows the animal to locate a person even in environments with dense smoke, because changes in air composition and human respiration are identifiable at levels beyond our reach. These technical voices act as behind-the-scenes explanations of what, at first glance, seems almost miraculous, and give us a practical lens through which to understand what happened. Amidst this dramatic sequence, a detail emerges that surprised even those closest to him. The dog, a few minutes after being rescued, refused to leave the room, even when the team tried to take him outside for treatment. He returned. He returned to lie down next to the boy in the hallway, as if his mission were never finished. In the rush to rescue, they noticed faint marks on his paws, signs of heat, and scratches that betrayed exposure to the fire. Nothing that would change the animal's courage, but enough to prove he chose to face his own risk to protect another. This gesture, seemingly irrational to outsiders, has an emotional and practical explanation. Everyday devotion creates automatic decisions in extreme situations, and these decisions have real consequences. The revelation that an animal can deliberately prioritize another at personal risk shakes our notion of sacrifice and the responsibility we have when caring for beings who give everything in exchange for care and affection. The rescue scene, therefore, must be told with detail, but also with respect. There are moving images, but they must be treated without sensationalism. Slow motion helps capture what words don't say. The trembling of the paws, the suspended air, the weight of the action, and increases the viewer's empathy. At the same time, these moments serve as triggers for broader reflections on life-shaping decisions. Why wasn't there an alternative route? Why did the window jam just when it was needed? Small flaws in domestic planning, combined with unforeseen events, create risks that can be mitigated with simple actions. The transformation here is twofold. The boy's life is transformed. It transforms the mindset of the family and the community, which, faced with something so profound, realizes that prevention and care go hand in hand. After the rescue, the race to save the boy had just begun. Doctors and firefighters took over. The role the dog had begun: oxygen, assessment, medication, and the entire hospital routine that follows the evacuation of a smoke victim. But the four-legged hero's story doesn't end there. It continues in the small actions that followed: the family's vigil, the kindness of neighbors, the story that spread throughout the community and gradually across the internet. The impact wasn't just local, it became a topic of conversation, reflection, and decision-making for other families watching and reflecting on their own daily lives. The dog's action served as a catalyst, an event that reveals hidden truths about bonding, responsibility, and how small, silent decisions shape destinies. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic. And as we do, we'll unpack every movement of the rescue, analyze the exact time between the first bark and the arrival of help, understand what practical choices made a difference in that crucial moment, examine the revelations that emerge when we delve behind the scenes of animal behavior, and also discuss the emotional impact of this experience on the family and the community. Comment: that makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, and as we delve into this, I want you to feel that we're not just recounting an event. We're unveiling a series of decisions, a mindset, and small transformations that together created an outcome that seemed improbable. When we calmly observe what happened in that house, we realize that the rescue was not an isolated episode, but the culmination of a journey that involved daily bonding, silent habits, and quick reactions, elements that make up the backstory of any survival story. There's a hidden truth in all of this. Often what saves is not just luck, nor just courage, but the sum of small choices that, in the heat of the moment, act as levers capable of changing destinies. And this is the revelation we need to carry forward, because it transforms fear into action and helplessness into responsibility. By looking at the impact of this gesture, the dog covering the boy, dragging his pajamas, insisting even when the heat threatened, we realize that there is a mindset of preparedness that can be cultivated. I'm not talking about complex measures. I'm talking about simple, repeated decisions that become routine and harden our ability to respond. Therefore, when thinking about preparedness, 3 practical attitudes stand out and deserve to be mentioned directly and in an actionable way. Training your dog's recall so that he responds to commands even in stressful environments. Having a home evacuation plan that includes your pet with clear meeting points and routes, and ensuring the animal has an up-to-date identification tag to facilitate reunions and quick interventions. These 3 tips are short but powerful. They are the bridge between the excitement of rescue and the discipline that prevents tragedies. When I talk about recall, I'm not referring to hours of immediate professional training. I'm talking about consistency, reinforcing habits with affection, associating return with reward, and transforming the animal's response into something automatic and reliable. When mentioning the evacuation plan, there's a shift in mindset, seeing the home not just as a space for affection, but as a scenario that demands advanced decisions, easy access to doors, keys in a readily accessible location, an alternative route for taking a pet that might get scared and hide. And as for the identification tag, it's a practical truth. In times of confusion, small details save time. A name, a phone number, a registration number that allows people and services to be contacted immediately. All of these decisions have a real impact. They are part of the transformation that allows stories like the one we've seen to end in recovery rather than tragedy. But the lesson isn't just technical. There's a deeply human component that accompanies every practical choice. Empathy, respect, and responsibility. Seeing the dog now, quietly on the couch, supported by caressing hands and grateful eyes, is witnessing the reciprocity of a relationship built day after day. This reciprocity generates decisions to train, to plan, to check escape routes, that are in essence expressions of love translated into practical action. And when I speak of community impact, I'm not just referring to tributes or local headlines. I'm referring to the shift in mindset that spreads when neighbors check outlets, when building managers demand electrical inspections, when parents talk to their children about safety. The rescue narrative acts as a catalyst. It reveals what was previously hidden and incites a series of collective responses that can prevent future incidents. In practice, this means that a single story can trigger smaller policies, a group of neighbors organizing a safety check, a school inviting a firefighter to speak about prevention, a residents' association organizing a community inspection. Small individual decisions, when combined, produce a community impact. This is the transformation that arises from the event. From the trauma emerges an opportunity for change, and this change in turn is reflected in concrete choices that save lives. It's also important to discuss the emotional aspect of recovery. The journey of someone who goes through such a difficult time brings wounds that aren't visible in a clinical examination. Fear that returns with the smell of smoke, disturbed dreams, the need to rebuild a sense of security in their own home, psychological support, frank conversations at home, and time, these are essential components of recovery. And in this area, the animal's role goes beyond heroic gestures. The dog, through its constant presence, acts as an emotional anchor, helping to restore routines, reduce anxiety, and rebuild trust. This is one of the most beautiful and profound revelations. The transformation born from the bond is both physical and psychological. The same bond that motivates rescue also aids recovery. Thinking this way changes the way we approach responsibility. Caring for a pet is no longer just about providing food and shelter. It becomes a commitment that includes preparation, training, and attention to the small truths of everyday life. At the same time, we cannot romanticize the event to the point of forgetting the need for fact-checking. There were reports, assessments, and testimonies that confirmed the technical origin of the fire and the circumstances of the rescue. And this verification is essential for the narrative to serve as a lesson rather than a myth. Knowing exactly what failed, what worked, and what can be safely replicated is part of the behind-the-scenes story that makes any story applicable. This leads us to a place of responsibility, collecting information, learning from it, and transforming knowledge into decisions. And when we do this, the impact is magnified. We cease to be emotional spectators and become agents capable of implementing practical changes in our homes and communities. Finally, there's an ethical aspect worth mentioning. The moral debt we feel toward those who instinctively protect us. Seeing recognition for our dog, whether in a symbolic gesture, a medal, or daily affection, is a way of making amends, of giving thanks, and of affirming that coexistence generates obligations. Taking on this responsibility is transforming gratitude into action, and action into prevention. The journey we're discussing here, therefore, doesn't end with a hug in the hallway or a medal presented in a celebratory gesture. It continues in everyday life, in the choices and decisions each family makes after experiencing the intensity of such an event. When we reflect on all this, one phrase comes back firmly, like a narrative and emotional anchor. When everyone thought it was the end, a snout sought hope and found life. And it is precisely from this image that I want to further analyze the gestures, time, and consequences that shape this story. Comment: that makes sense to me. If you've made it this far, thank you for following along. It speaks volumes about how much real stories and practical lessons can touch and transform us. If you want to continue receiving stories like this, with useful tips, analysis, and that blend of emotion and information that makes a difference in everyday life, subscribe to the channel. Here, we always have content designed for those who love animals and want to learn how to protect their own families. If this story touched you, leave a like. It's a simple gesture that shows that it's worth bringing more stories and important information like this. And if you stayed until the end, write in the comments, "I'm with you until the end." I'd love to read who stayed with me on this journey. There's a video here that complements this topic. Click and stay with me there as I'm waiting for you to continue uncovering these stories and life-changing decisions.